Hi, Julia. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. It's so nice to talk to you after you helped me go viral.
Oh my God. You know what? That was the first time that I ever realized that I can, in a way, help bring more awareness to a short film, because I've been doing this for a few months, and every time I like a short film and I make a TikTok about it, I assume that, it's just big production companies. It's, the YouTube channel is one of the many channels where the short is uploaded to. So I never think that the creators are going to watch it or hear about it. So when I saw your comment, I was so excited. Thank God I noticed, because I always look for the credits at the end so I can say in the video like who made it. When I noticed that it was, a one-woman show, it was pretty exciting because it's a really, really amazing short film.
La actriz que hizo el corto se llama Julia Bailey Johnson y ella hizo todo. Lo escribió, lo grabó, lo produjo.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I am probably unlike a lot of other people in that I've been basically stalking every appearance because it is such a one-woman show. Anytime someone appreciates it, I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much,
Did it show up in your For You page on TikTok?
No, because it premiered on Alter in March, late March, and then got quite a few views, more than I expected, and had a pretty good speed with that. And then it was slowing down. And then overnight, almost 200,000 views added. And I was like, well, okay, something. And then a lot of comments in Spanish too. And I was like, okay, something happened here. And then someone commented like, oh, I'm here from TikTok. Because I before this, I've just been like a casual user feeling slightly alienated from TikTok. But now I'm like,
right,
I'm on it. And then I found your video, and then you actually started showing up on some of my friends' For You pages, which was really a surreal experience. They're like, Julia, your face, your bloody face is like on my Explore. But I was like, oh, something's happened.
So, getting right into it. How did you come up with the idea for the short film? It premiered at the Screamfest Horror Film Festival in 2020, where it won Best Comedy Horror Short. But when did the whole idea come to you?
So, it had been kind of stewing in my brain for maybe 2 years before that. And it took me a while to actually get going with it. And it took me actually quitting my job and fully just working on it for a summer in 2019. My job was not to work really with influencers, but I was working kind of around in a warehouse with people who were filming YouTube videos. And so it was kind of just this like background noise for me. I knew I wanted to make a short. I knew I wanted to make a horror short. I didn't really know about what, but I'm sure just hearing that all day long, like, hey guys, hey guys, hey guys, became sort of a like, I think I want to maybe make one about someone tearing their face off. I don't know. So maybe that's like kind of therapy at some point. I worked on it first, summer of 2019, had a completely different ending at that point.
Really?
Sat with it, was actually feeling really low about it for almost a year and just thinking that I had wasted my time and did not like it and was like, why did I act and like what's going on? It was a whole year of self-doubt, and then COVID happened. I had even more time to doubt myself and sit with it, like we all, I'm sure, sat with our feelings. And then I reshot a bunch of scenes, added new scenes, used the like bits of scraps of makeup that I had saved in my closet, and then basically recut and remade the film and then submitted it to Screamfest that summer. It was basically like a 2-year-long digestion in my brain before it actually became a finished product.
Wow.
I feel like my face is getting really tight, and I see there's actually quite a bit of redness. Rub that all over where you applied the peel.
I think for creative people, that's kind of what happens a lot. You hang around a topic or something for enough time, and then ideas just come to you. I wondered, like I was watching it and I thought the way the character talks to the camera, the setup, the kind of live, laugh, love vibe of it all. It's like, did you have any references from like famous beauty vloggers, or did you research looking for videos of small like 8 subscriber type of YouTubers?
I did. I definitely did. I mean, I also grew up in that era of like, I learned how to curl my hair from these videos. I learned everything from YouTube. Like that was a very specific point in time, I think. I'm a millennial. Like it was before TikTok. It was before
the 2010s.
Yeah, exactly. Like this was a very specific point in time that was very important to my upbringing and growing up, and that was how I was influenced growing up, was from YouTube. So it was already burned into my brain, but then the smaller, just starting out type creators, I definitely watched some videos that had me feeling a little sad. but
yes, there's something, and it's perfect for the creepiness of the video about when you realize at the end that this girl only had 8 subscribers, and then you just imagine the whole situation happened with pretty much no one actually watching it. It was just like her in her own head just creating this fantasy. That's psychological terror. That was the biggest plot twist for me, because I thought I was just watching a funny horror short about someone just making a bad decision, but the plot twist makes it eerie at the end in such a crazy way. So was that plot twist something that you wanted to do from the beginning, or you told me now that it had a very different ending?
Yeah, that kind of came to me over that process of just like sitting with the footage that I did have and wondering what the heck kind of statement I was trying to actually make with this.
Oh, right.
And initially it was kind of what you were saying, like it was just going to be kind of a funny, gory, because I love body horror, I love like good practical effects, like that's kind of the movies that I grew up on and love to this day. And I think I realized it wasn't a fully fleshed out idea. I think I was like, I think this is more about her. It's not about a shitty company. It's about her. I wanted it to be terror instead of just like a horror comedy, which it still is, but I did want people to leave that video feeling like gutted in some way. That's when I was like, okay, that's what needs to happen. If I had realized that in the beginning, I would have shot it a little differently, but I hope that it's still effective for people.
No, it totally did, because one of the things that I noticed is that it's like 2 layers of acting. Like you have to act like you're someone who is lying, but trying to not look like you're lying.
Yeah. And there are scenes where I did do that. In order to make that work, I did reshoot scenes so that little element, that like weird little twist of like when she goes to get coconut oil, like where she's talking about like the rep. There's no rep, and she knows that there's no rep in that moment.
Yes.
So,
hey guys, so quick change of plans. I'm actually gonna run out and get some coconut oil because the rep said that is pretty similar in like formula to what the neutralizing agent is.
and I loved in your video, you totally picked up on those things too. Like you completely got those moments of like, if you're being, I think, an acute, you're sort of like something's off about the way that she's describing this company. So that's what I felt like I needed to go back and add in.
That was the thing. Like when I finished it, the ending happened, and I was like, oh my God, that's so sad. Like, and then the messages show up, and I just had to rewind, and I started watching everything. I was like, wait, but the coconut oil, but the rep, the brand. And actually I wondered if the whole thing about her finally breaking down and saying that the company doesn't want to work with her anymore.
Probably the most disappointing update. Sue Skincare no longer wants to do this sponsorship with me. Trying not to let my emotions think I'm been sleeping.
Was that a part of the original script? Or I thought maybe this is the way that she can finally kind of show emotion in the video without having to admit what happened. Because at the end, you realize that she's crying because she made a huge mistake, but she can't say it. So she has to say something.
Totally. And that was new stuff that I shot. You're spot on with it, where it was like, this is the moment where she realizes there's no turning back. We have to blame someone. And I feel like there's been a lot of people commenting recently, were like, oh, this hits different after the Colleen ukulele video, like with like YouTuber apologies and things like that, because that's, that was her version of like a notes app, kind of like, I have a statement to make, like, whose skincare is no longer working with me, but it's just a deranged moment of desperation. She realizes at that point, it's like, okay, I have to double down or give up entirely on this.
Right. And that line, this is so crappy because they are quitting and I don't quit. I don't do that. That was so perfect, because when you watch it the first time, you're, oh, this poor girl, like she can't admit to herself that she made a deal with a really bad company. And at the end you realize, oh, she's really delusional.
Yeah. And then especially with all the stuff that's going on with Shein right now too, like,
yes.
I was a little upset with myself that I waited so long to kind of put this out, but now I'm kind of like, there's like, maybe this is the perfect time for it to be coming out, because, or at least online, because I feel like influencer culture just is never going to stop changing and never going to stop being relevant in some way, because I was a little worried about the subject being kind of stale. When I first thought of it in like 2018, 2019, I think the subject had been touched on a little bit less in other forms of media. When Alter had actually reached out to me a while ago now, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to commit to like this just being publicly available online, because that's scary. Online is a scary place. But I'm kind of glad that I waited, because I feel like there have been so many other instances where a Kalley story is now something that we can connect with and feel terror from and analyze in a way where even a couple years ago it would feel hit differently.
That is so true. If you create something with a plot line related to influencers or content online, you could think at a certain point, oh, maybe this is gonna be not a trendy thing and it's gonna go away, but then you realize that it's, like you said, always gonna be here in some way or another. So, you know, the whole point of the short is, like you said, more relevant than ever. So I wanted to ask you that. How did the short get to be an altar? They reached out to you, right?
Yeah, so after Screamfest, I'm forever grateful to Screamfest because I feel like they were the most supportive, and that kind of was a little bit of a launching pad for the short. You know, and I got into some other festivals, and then it did like a little international tour, but it was all during COVID. Otherwise, I would have tried to go around and travel with it. They reached out for a screener, can't remember when, but I feel like it was maybe 2021 or something. I couldn't believe anybody liked this film still. I was just kind of like, no, well, they're definitely not going to want it. Something must be wrong with Screamfest, but Alter's definitely not going to want it. And then like they got back to me a couple months later and like, yeah, we feel like this would really inspire some great conversation, which it has online. It's been really fun to read. I just got so scared. I didn't even really like reply to them for a while. And it took me almost like a year and a half, 2 years to finally get it together and decide that I wanted this to just be like, if I'm applying for a job, I just have to be like, oh yeah, there is a video of me like a little cuckoo online. I couldn't believe it, and it has been like a dizzying experience since it went live in March. It's the only time as a creative person full of self-doubt that I've ever had a moment where I was like, wow, maybe this doesn't suck entirely, because people are connecting with it and reacting to it. So it's been awesome. So I'm very grateful to Alter.
I tend to not like shorts or stories that are placed online because they get to be a little bit cheesy sometimes when they reference social media. So
totally.
I watched it, I loved it, and then I go to the comments and the pinned comment is your comment. I think you said, guys, don't put red dye on your face before a job interview. And everyone was so shocked that it was, you know, a one-woman show. So did you realize quickly with the comments that, whoa, I did a good job? Like,
I did. I'm such a harsh critic that it took like a lot of comments, and then I'd be like, oh, there's one bad one. He's right, actually. But, you know, so like it was, and then the people who don't realize that it's all me too, they're like, oh, the producers could have done a better job with like the last little bit of skin. And I was like, oh, the producers? Really? All the producers? All of us? I'm sure, yeah, totally. With all of our money that we had for this, we were literally returning stained things to Old Navy. That's how much money we had to make this. So it has been a moment sort of like, okay, step back. Like, you did a good job, instead of just trying to find all the flaws in something you make, which is what we are inclined to do.
And about that special effects makeup, you had Alondra Shields help you with it, but people don't know that you still worked a lot on the makeup yourself, right?
Yeah. She did such an amazing job. I know how to shoot, I know how to edit, I know how to, that kind of stuff I know that I can all kind of do. Producing pays my bills, that's what I do. So, but I also am a creative person. I knew I could produce that part, and I also like to do makeup. But I knew that I couldn't make a mold of my face. I knew I needed someone to do this like really well. And so that's where any money that I had laying around that could go towards this needed to go towards that. So she came in and we did the life cast of my face. You know, she did the gnarliest stages for me, except for the Band-Aid scene. So the first like 10 hours later one where I'm like got all the boils, and she did that scene with me. The first like really burnt one where I drink my little tea, and then the final peeling. But all the initial stuff, like just the red, the infamous Band-Aid like head wrap scene, that was all me. The reason I have the wrap is because I didn't want anyone to see like how I had just glued it back on. But I felt like it worked. I don't know. It was so ridiculous. Perfect. It was so ridiculous. I mean, I felt like it actually did look like big scabbing, but it's just because I had the big chunks left over. Saturday in LA one day, I'm just like in my apartment like gluing stuff back on.
Actually, that's the scene where she finally breaks down. That, I think, is the one that looks like it hurts the most because it looks very red. You can see that it's like freshly burned skin. Yeah, it was crazy. And the scabs, and I think it's the first time that she does an update in bed. Those look really, really real.
Yes, That one was really hard to film seriously because I should make a blooper reel because I was like filming myself in bed and Alondra was in the corner, and I did have one friend helping me that day. So like was seeing myself like on the selfie camera looking so, hey guys, I just couldn't. It was so funny. It was so like, it was just so absurd.
She's acting very happy in that update. So
yeah, because it's incredible progress. All the bad stuff is being juiced out. So.
Hey guys, there's obviously been some like really incredible progress. A lot of that bad stuff is starting to come to the surface. Oh my god, my bangs look crazy. I'm sorry.
I think the one that made me laugh, the first update that she does back on the set of her YouTube videos, where she goes, I definitely don't want to sugarcoat things. Her face is just red and burned.
Hey guys, I definitely don't want to sugarcoat things. Things are definitely feeling a little tender today.
Did you always know that you wanted to send your short for a festival, for Screenfest, or that kind of like came about later, or you knew that you wanted to distribute the short?
Yeah, I kind of made that my goalpost to finish it, just Screamfest. I didn't really know any other ones or whatever because I had been sitting on it for so long. I was like, okay, let's finish this. Even if I wanted to keep like tweaking with the edit or something, I was like, nope, we're just going in. You know, it could be better, but it's going in. I even remember just thinking like, I'll probably never even hear from it, but it's done, and I have a finished thing that I can say I completed. They're a really nice festival. They're the best.
Oh, that's so cool.
All their trophies that they have were designed by Stan Winston, who was this legendary special effects, creature effects, makeup effects artist.
That is a gorgeous trophy. It's very pretty. Actually, what was your relationship with the horror genre as a kid? Have you always been a fan? Like, what was the first movie you saw, book you read that made you feel like it was, you know, something you were interested in?
Always have loved it. I think I have my mother to thank for that. Halloween was a huge deal for us. I still to this day, like, I go hard on Halloween. Like, the costume is always like planned months in advance. It's a serious day. Right. It's a very serious day. The first time I remember really connecting with the genre, it's more sci-fi, but the original Twilight Zone.
Todo es posible en la dimensión desconocida.
It's the first time I felt this fear or terror or curiosity in a controlled environment. I think I really like that feeling. And then it's so well done too, those original episodes. Some of them are cheesy, but the ones where you don't necessarily see what's scary, that's why when I first remember feeling like I loved that feeling of being scared. It's the curious terror though that I really like, where you're left wondering why you're feeling a certain way or why this affected you or why a story affected you. I've loved it ever since. And, you know, we would watch the, like, classic horror movies, too, like the original Wolfman or Dracula, all of those, like, black and white, what was, I feel like, playing in the background of my childhood.
So as a producer, right, do you, or have you worked before in the horror genre, or was the short film specifically, like, your first fully realized project when it comes to horror? Or do you work in the horror industry?
I wish I worked in the horror industry exclusively, but, so my background, like, primarily is in post-production, like special effects and visual effects, but it's mainly like producing CGI. So I don't really do it myself, but I know the people who know how to put fire where there's not fire or things like that. That's what I've really been doing for the last like 10 years. It's not my passion. My passion is like filmmaking and creating these things, but it's something I know how to do and I do find it interesting. I've also done a bunch of other different things, as I think a lot of people in film and creative things do, but I did work in the art department on one horror movie, one very indie horror movie, and I was an art department like PA or something, and it was a very like violent kind of cheesy horror movie, and I learned that the art department PA is the person that they kind of test all the props on basically. So they had me like hanging in chains at one point. Let us know when this starts to hurt, Julia. And I was like, okay, I don't think I signed anything, but sure. That was really fun.
I was asking you because when there's something that you really love, like a genre of, and even if you work, you know, in proximity to it, when you get to do something that is actually mainly in that space that you love, that genre that you love, it's complicated because you get scared that you are gonna fail at doing something that you've always loved. So it's scary. And maybe I wonder if now that you see that it's successful and people love it, if it makes you wanna do more things and direct more short films and create more horror stories.
It really does. Like, this has been a super motivating experience. Being a producer, I've gotten really good at kind of making other people's ideas happen.
Right.
You get in a cycle of that, and then it also helps when it pays you money. I feel like my own creativity and my own work and things that I've wanted to make have kind of fallen more to the wayside, which is why I had to quit my job and save up for a few months. And don't do that before a pandemic. I will say that. Don't quit your job before a pandemic. And I have so many more ideas that I want to make now, and to kind of be validated in this way where I'm like, wow, something that I thought of is connecting with people in a way where they don't hate it is very cool. I'm also still kind of figuring out whether I want to keep making things completely by myself, because I really like doing that. Primarily because I don't get caught up on the money part of it and then just getting everyone together. So I have this idea to kind of continue my like one woman horror stories track, not with Kalley, but like other formats.
Yes.
To like either found footage type
so
things,
cool.
or I will say like the next one I'm thinking about is a ghost story. So because I really want to make a ghost story. That's what's kind of been on my brain.
People commented a lot on my TikTok about the short, like, what in the Black Mirror? And I thought it's true, because the cool thing about this kind of story is that some people think it's a real story. And because you filmed it as an actual YouTube video, a lot of people commented that up until the ending of the TikTok, they thought it was a real story. So I think that is such a cool format to explore in horror. Did you ever think about what happened to Kalley later? Like, she died and then she was found, or how?
I did think through it a bit. Not too much, though, because I was sort of like, the period can be here. I don't need to fully keep going. Although I did have people asking me, like, can she come back? Because some people were like, she could have a whole channel. She could keep going, you know, with just like a scarred face. And now we're trying like a waxing product, or, you know, and I was like, no, I'm not. I need to retire Kalley for my own like mental health, because Kalley is my shadow self. I honestly feel like the reason it maybe was so easy for me to play her is because she really is like this gross, weird person inside of me that, like, if I had been raised differently, I could have turned out like her, you know?
When I was watching it, I thought, because knowing that it was a short film, when you were speaking in this very 2010s chronically online Valley Girl accent, I was thinking, I didn't know it was a short film. I would fully believe this is real. I think maybe that's what happened to a lot of people. When you watch it, you think, well, this was kind of me when I was trying to do YouTube when I was 19. Kind of like, we all have that person inside. It's just that some people actually go in that route. That's the thing.
Becomes who they are.
I know that the video was uploaded on March, so some people may think that it was premiered this year, but it premiered at Screamfest on 2020. And I saw a lot of people were commenting on my TikTok and on the YouTube video that there is a episode from Guillermo del Toro's Netflix show with a very similar story. But this was first.
This was first. Yes, this was first. I don't think that they stole from me, but this was first. And I think that that's just the natural progression of ideas, and nothing happens in a bubble. And I think that that actually was based on a comic book that I have never heard of. All of these things evolve on their own timelines, but I just didn't want people to think that I completely ripped off something from Netflix.
That's the thing. That's important to say, because I think we have similar ideas, but it's, you know, different creations. And I think that happens too with storylines and plot lines, but it would be annoying for people to assume that because this was posted now that you copied it when you actually did it first.
Yeah, I was here first, Netflix, so...
Thank you so much for this interview, Julia. Your short film was so fun, entertaining, funny, horrifying, well done. And actually, my TikTok video is one of my most successful ones. Actually, I think it's one of the only 4 I have that are over 1 million likes. So people loved the short in Spanish.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much for liking it and getting it and bringing more eyes and attention to it. It's just been truly one of the most rewarding experiences of my life so far. And now we have a new friendship across US and Chile. This is just so cool. We gotta love TikTok, honestly.
I know that if you participate in more horror projects, we're all gonna definitely be watching.
Okay, well, that's the most motivating thing ever, so I'm gonna get on it right away.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you so much, Nico. So good to talk to you. Yeah. I mean, you can see, like, this is perfect skin. This is perfection.